1 minute till broadcast. Seconds till broadcast. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin transmission.
Fighting for freedom every day.
Republicans right now, the conservatives, which unfortunately, this is what we have to do every time, even after a vote where people are sick and tired of the establishment, they're sick and tired of the squeezy, middle-of-the-road, squishy kind of Republican rhinos, and we vote conservatives in, then we have to fight tooth and nail in D.C. to actually be heard within the Republican Party.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Darn right it is. Hey, welcome into the program. What's up? It's a brand new week. It's a brand new day. It is a Monday, the greatest day of the entire week. Yes, setting the tone for the week. That's what we do here, trying to carpe diem all over this place. Welcome into the show, and it's great to have you along for the ride today. Broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas on our flagship radio station. We are all over the country, radio, TV, live streaming, and podcasting. However you watch or listen to the show, it's always great to have you. Your Millennial General reporting for duty. Big show lined up today. We're trying to get right now. They gave me the wrong number, so I'm trying to reach out and get a different number. But Dr. Robert Malone was supposed to be joining us right now as we speak on the program to kick off the show. So we may get him on today. We may have to reschedule that one. Not a problem. They gave me the office number, and the office is closed. Doesn't really help me to try and get him on the program. So we're working on it, trying to reach out. We'll get him on in just a little bit. Or if not, don't worry, we'll get that tomorrow. But his new book, Lies My Government Told Me and the Better Future That Is Coming. I like that. Optimism moving forward. So we'll get him on here relatively soon. For those that don't know who Dr. Robert Malone is, do a little Google search. Although I will say the interweb has changed their tone on him quite a bit. When you Google Robert Malone, one of the first things that pops up is from The Atlantic back in 2002 or 2022. Robert Malone claims to have invented mRNA technology. So why is he trying so hard to undermine it? Yeah, those guys. By golly gee willikers, how dare he try to stop it because he created it, know exactly what it does. So we'll get him on with his new book. We'll talk about some of the vaccines. The continued amount of individuals is dropping across the society of a heart attack, of heart issues, of random. We have no clue why they're just dropping. And I want to pick his brain on, does he think that the mindset of COVID-19 and the vaccines, has it changed? Has he evolved on his opinion on this moving forward, or is he still skeptical about the way that they're using those vaccines? So we'll get him on again a little bit later. Not a big deal. Bottom of the hour, I am excited to have on. We'll have Ken Raposa. He is with the Coalition for a Prosperous America. We're going to talk about the China. I missed that from Donald Trump, don't you? The China balloon. And what does it mean for relations between the United States and Russia? There are some deep issues going on here. Maybe this is the perfect opportunity for us to talk about this leading up to our conversation with Ken at the bottom of the hour as we talk about the relations between the U.S. and China. As you know, while the train derailment happened in Ohio, we had the massive pushback from us as the conservatives saying, hey, where the hell is the president of the United States? And while we have a disaster going on, essentially blowing up a small town in the United States, we have our president of the United States out there over in Ukraine, giving them trillions of dollars of our own money, paying for their pensions, paying for their infrastructure. We've told the story. We don't need to go down that road again. So of course, now some of the pushback from the conservatives is, well, you know what, to hell with Ukraine, we're going to support Russia. in this deal, which I am not for in any way, shape, or form, because Russia is still run by a crazy dictator tyrant that is Vladimir Putin, who is a communist KGB affiliate who wants to reunite the Soviet Union, which is one of the reasons that he's actually invading the Ukraine. Can't be doing that. But the media has done a perfect prime job setting this up for us to really bicker at each other, because, as you know, divide and conquer is their mentality. That's what they love to do, is they divide and conquer between everybody. So whether it's right and left, whether it's conservative liberal, whether it's black or white, whether it's church or non-church, whether it's Christian or Muslim, whatever the case is, the media, society as a whole, loves to do the whole divide and conquer by keeping us in these identity politics boxes and going at each other. And the latest and greatest is, of course, the Russia and Ukrainian conflict that's ongoing, on whether you're pro-Ukraine, whether you're pro-Russia, which I don't know many people, I got to be honest, that are pro-Russia. And if you are, then that's a little weird and a little strange. But if you stand that way, then that's cool. There are obviously those as well on the conspiratorial side that, and I say that again with very air quotes here, conspiratorial, on the reasons for the invasion of Ukraine and the slush money coming in from the United States and what's going on there, and Volodymyr Zelensky being kind of a puppet, which he is. That's not much of a conspiracy. But again, this issue has divided us majorly. COVID, non-COVID, vaccines, non-vaccines. Everything's about dividing. Everything's about division. Everything's about the divide and conquer. And they do it very good, especially when we're all isolated and we can't talk to the other side because social media puts up the barriers and the algorithms to where we can't communicate. And they do a fantastic job putting up the walls in society to where we can't really talk to one another on the other side to at least understand the other side's point of view and the thought process that they have. Now, I'll be the first to admit that there are very few points on the other side in some ways that actually make sense. And if you do, then I respect you and tip my hat to you. I may not agree with you, but I can at least understand your thought process. Now that social media is here, there's not a lot of that going on. Not a lot of that going on. So I want to be very clear with this issue on Russia-Ukraine, because while we get into these infightings here of Russia's good or Ukrainians good or we need to support these guys, whatever, we need to remember that in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to the elites, when it comes to the globalists, when it comes to the issues going on an international scale with the United Nations, with NATO, with the European Union, with these mid-regional and global governments that are trying to dominate the entire world and control what you and I think, what you and I know, and how you and I feel on particular issues, they don't leave any rock unturned. And they are at both ends of the candlestick here, so to speak. Joe Biden has just as many ties to Russia as he does to the Ukraine. Joe Biden and the Biden family and Hunter Biden has just as many ties to China and to Russia as they do the Ukraine. Now, I do strongly believe that there is some really deep tie regarding Russia, or I'm sorry, to the Ukraine and to the United States. Why in the world would we pay for their pensions and their infrastructure rebuild with the ongoing conflict? Well, the conflict's not even over. I mean, if you look at World War II, if that's what they're trying to mimic this issue off of, is we're going to pass the Great Deal, we're going to invest and try and rebuild Europe after World War II, what FDR did with the Great Deal, where we really started our whole trick of we're going to spend more than what the GDP is about, we're going to spend more than what we really should be. We're going to get ourselves into crazy amounts of debt. We're going to expand the government programs. We're going to expand the agencies and the departments and everything else. If he's trying to mimic that, at least wait until the conflict's over, because if we invest in infrastructure now, how do we know it's not going to get blown up later and then just wasting money and throwing money at the issue? So it's a little strange. It's also strange that he let Russia know that he was going over there last week or a couple weeks ago before he actually did it, to warn them. And then days later, we had Russia pull out of the nuclear arms deal between Russia and the United States. So things just don't add up. Then you look at, now that we've hit the 1-year anniversary of Russia and the Ukraine conflict, you look at how the sanctions have been in place against Russia. That was the slap on the wrist that did absolutely zero zip nada against the country of Russia, by putting sanctions on certain individuals, putting sanctions on certain markets like the energy markets with coal and electricity and natural gas and oil and everything else of the sorts. We put sanctions on those. We put sanctions on the rich people can't have their yachts. And we put these sanctions on Vladimir Putin's daughters and whatever else we felt like putting a sanction, and again, I use air quotes for this, sanctions on. And for those that don't follow politics as closely, for those that don't pay attention to this stuff nearly as much, but just hear the quick headlines and are frustrated that while our economy is in the complete tank and our recession's hitting and every economist is selling off all their stocks right now and that they're trying to prepare for the recession of 2023, we're out spending billions upon billions of dollars in the Ukraine under the name of we're going to continue to fight for sovereignty of the Ukraine. Now, I will tell you that in the ideological sense, I support that concept of the sovereignty of Ukraine. To say, no, we don't want to reunite the Soviet Union. No, we don't need a crazy communist dictator taking over there. And no, we don't need a humanitarian crisis like we're seeing right now with Russia blowing up apartment complexes with people still inside them. We don't need that. That's horrible. And God bless the Ukrainian people for standing up and fighting for their nation. The people, the government's a different story. What we need to recognize here is that as the average American, the average Joe Schmo for you and I, the average person, it's a lose-lose situation whether you support Ukraine or you support Russia. And whether you're tired of money being sent to the Ukraine or not. I completely, full-heartedly believe, truly, that the money being spent over there for not necessarily maybe the bullets and the weapons, but definitely for the pension plans, for the infrastructure rebuild, for all this garbage, is essentially a slush fund going into the Ukraine to wash money and to hype up the government over there. That's just a puppet for the Biden/Obama administration. And I say that because Obama did the same thing over there by kind of setting the stage for this when he was in office, and now it's coming to fruition. So yes, it is the Obama and Biden administration that's partaking in this, and I truly, honestly believe that that money is going over there in a very corrupt manner that we should not be spending on in any way, shape, or form. So Andy, so you don't support Ukraine, you support Russia? No, I don't. For obvious reasons, being a crazy communist dictator over there as well, and just as many ties to Russia that the Biden family has as well as Ukraine. Now let's take it a step further. Who's supporting Russia? China is supporting Russia. How many dealings do we know of just offhand without the investigations from the House of Representatives right now and the certain committees right now? How many dealings that we know of right now that the Bidens have with China, who's continuously funding the episode in Russia? If one benefits, the other benefits. It's a lose-lose situation, and all of us in America who get a slight bit of the information, who don't know exactly what's going on over there, whether it's the certain bioweapon labs that we have, whether it's the slush money that's coming in, whether it's the KGB trying to take over, whatever scenario that you believe in or that you want to believe in, we don't know the entire full story because they're not going to give us the entire full story. But what we do know is that we are, remember, you ever been in a divorce or some type of court hearing, and the lawyer is milking both sides by, hey, you need to talk to me, I'm going to talk to them, they're going to talk to me, I'm going to talk to you, and we're just going to milk this and go as long as we possibly can. If you've been through a divorce, which thankfully I have not, and I never plan to be in a divorce, but if you've ever been through a divorce process, they're essentially milking it from both ends to be able to get as much fund as possible and drag it out, which not necessarily the lawyer's fault because people are crazy, but at the same time, they're going to benefit from it. That's their job, and they're going to make money from it because that's what they do. Nothing against them. That's just what happens. That's the way the process is set up. That's what the Bidens are right now. That's what the federal government is right now. They're milking both sides of this. If Ukraine comes out victorious at the end, which they very possibly could, they're going to come back and they're going to be the absolute puppets for the United States government and be the slush funds of investing trillions of dollars into their government that's going to be turned around for benefits coming back to us through their government. If they don't, and Russia finally takes over, who benefits? The Russians benefit. The United States that was funding part of and put the quote-unquote wrist, slap on the wrist sanctions over them. And at the same time, the Chinese government that's been investing a buttload of money and resources into Russia to continue that as well, where they benefit from all the benefits of the resources, natural resources, economic resources that Ukraine has as well, that the Bidens are benefiting off of as well. No matter what side you're on, the United States is in a lose-lose situation with what's going on over there, thanks to the corrupt global elitists that are taking advantage of both situations. And no matter what issue we're talking about, foreign or domestic here in the United States, we need to remember many of these divisive issues that we have, we all can find common ground here on the home front between Republicans, Democrats, conservative liberals when we recognize identity politics, economic issues, governmental issues. Most of them are created for the elite that are benefiting on whichever side ends up winning at the end of the day. Happy Monday to you. We got a lot to get to here on The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Andy Hooser here, reminding you not only can you listen to The Voice of Reason on your favorite radio station, but also check out the video of the program on TV and online. We're excited to be working with our partners over at OpsLens to bring The Voice of Reason live every day on their website at opslens.com, on the OpsLens app that you can download on any of your smartphones, or on any of the OpsLens social media. It's a great network that broadcasts multiple shows promoting truth, reason, and common sense, reaching thousands of viewers every day, all day long. Plus, while you're there, you can always watch some of the best highlights of the show during the weekends or read our latest opinion columns on topical issues of the day. Also, if you want to interact with me during the program, just leave a comment on their social media or the OpsLens app stream. You can always join the live chat rooms, or if it's easier, just email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Again, that's HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. This is your show, and we want to hear from you. Why? Because it's time for you to be your own voice of reason in your own community. Looking for more reason? Well, now you can get even more content from The Voice of Reason through our Patreon site. It's your exclusive membership for being the ultimate Hoosier-holic. On our Patreon, you'll get additional interviews and content that we don't get to air on the radio, behind-the-scenes action from the Hooser Media Network, plus one-on-one video streams where you can catch up with me, guests of the show, and other great Voice of Reason supporters. Plus, you can also support the show by checking out our gear and swag. Find the link on our website at HooserReason.com. Again, that's HooserReason.com. Become the ultimate Hoosier-holic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com.
I cry.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser with The Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on The Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with The Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hoosier-holic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com. For a schedule of upcoming guests on the program, daily show topics, or to reach out to the Hooser Media Network, visit us on the website at HooserReason.com. Or for general inquiries, to be a guest on the program, or to have Andy a guest on your program, email us at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Keep fighting for freedom with us every day right here on The Voice of...
Fighting for freedom every day. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Welcome back into the program, 24 minutes past the hour. We're going to talk some more about that with Ken Raposa coming up at the bottom of the hour, the relationship with the U.S. and China and Russia and the Ukraine. I'm telling you, they're winning on both sides of this one. Whether it's NATO, whether it's anti-NATO, whether it's the sovereignty of Russia, whether it's the sovereignty of Ukraine, They know what they're doing, man, and they're benefiting from all sides of that one, which just leaves us in the dark and not getting what we actually need to survive on the home front here. But we'll figure it out. Why? Because we don't need the government to do everything for us and tell us what to do. So I am optimistic, baby. Do not think about that as a negative side. Think about that as, well, liars lie. And what a shocker that should be, right? There it is. All right. Speaking of, by the way, Dr. Robert Malone, we did get a message from the publicist group. They'll be rescheduling that interview. We have, I guess he just left the office early and forgot about the interview, or he's busy doing something else, but we'll get him on the show here soon. His latest book, Lies My Government Told Me and the Better Future Coming. Talking about lies from the government, man. I don't know if you've seen the headlines that happened over the weekend in our breaking news segment of the day. Oh, yeah. Now, all you, by the way, that were conspiracy theorists, all the ones that got shadow banned from social media during the COVID-19 pandemic, all of you that have been trying to question the government's authority over the COVID-19 pandemic and what they were telling us on the origins of it, where it was coming from, what it was doing, how bad it actually is. Yeah, you guys are actually right, and you were correct, by the way. That one is now the latest headlines that finally were leaked over the weekend with the media finally having to acknowledge it, the fact that we now know where the COVID-19 virus came from, and it was a leak from a lab in a little place called Wuhan, China. I know. Now, if you had posted that tweet just a couple years ago when the pandemic first came out and they were trying to say that there was a whole bunch of like Ozzy Osbournes running around biting the heads off of bats or something, then we were like, wait a second, that doesn't quite make any sense. Maybe, I guess, cool, but wouldn't that just like affect one person? And how the heck did we get this global pandemic here? But no, in fact, now they're saying, and we question, hey, wasn't there like a Wuhan lab where Dr. Fauci was tied to, and we were concerned about gain of function, and there's some weird things going on. No. It was the bat. It was only the bat, and anyone that says anything about Wuhan, China is a racist for accusing Chinese people and Wuhan people for actually spreading the virus. You can't be doing that. We're going to shadow ban you. We're going to censor you on the social media. You're not allowed to talk about that issue. Oh, okay. I guess we can't talk about that issue any longer. Well, now, after all those years, now they finally came out and said, well, I guess it was kind of a leak from a lab in Wuhan. Now, oh man. So, if you've been hanging on to that idea the entire time and you didn't fall for the Ozzy Osbourne theory of biting the heads off of bats in a market in some crazy little town in China, then kudos on you. Pat yourself on the back. You were able to stick it out. That was the challenge, ladies and gentlemen. It was the COVID-19 pandemic test. And if you stuck to your guns and you still believed in the Wuhan lab, then you passed, and you can pat yourself on the back. Is that... It really does bring up the questions, though, because you're not doing any favors, media, if this is what you're actually recording now and reporting, is if you're finally admitting that, are you going to apologize for attacking anyone who blamed the Wuhan lab? Are you going to admit that there was any type of connection to Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's now left the government because he didn't want to be part of this because his job is done? He started off in a disaster with AIDS, and he ended with his career in a disaster with COVID-19, and now he's out the door. Are we going to continue to look into gain-of-function concerns and investments from Dr. Fauci and the Wuhan lab going on in China when we know there was some type of connection? So you've admitted one. When are you going to admit the rest? And if the conspiracy theorists were right on this one for conspiracy theories, hooray! Pat yourself on the tinfoil head that you have right now. If we have that question, then what else are they lying about that we could find out about? Maybe vaccine efficiencies, or like Dr. Robert Malone says with the mRNA technologies, or masks, or lockdowns, or the economy, or inflation, or Russia.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. You know, when I get off the air every day, the battle for me against limited government, censorship, and even unfactual content is far from over. That's why now I'm so happy to say that the Hooser Media Network is giving you more opportunity to catch the Voice of Reason along with other great shows and podcasts. It's been a long time in the works, and now you can finally enjoy more great content, services, and topical shows. We're the safe space for alternative talk, information, and ideas that the mainstream media absolutely hates. From holistic and alternative medicine, discussions on religion and spirituality, pure entertainment shows, and of course yours truly with the Voice of Reason. Plus, we offer numerous media services, including helping you set up your own podcast. Become your own voice of reason and bring your expertise to any fun issue or topic. For information on all of our shows, links to podcasts, each show website or social media link, or to find out about everything we do to challenge the mainstream establishment, visit our website at HooserMedia.com. Again, that's HooserMedia.com, the future of media. Welcome to the Hooser Media Network. It's been a long time coming, and now it's growing bigger and better than we ever imagined. The Hooser Media Network is so much more than just the voice of reason. It's a network for you as a listener and you as a podcaster. It's a network for any kind of talk on any kind of topic, bringing podcasters together to give you a new way to think about the world, and it's any type of show from entertainment to educational. Check out all of our great programs, like Dr. Devin Verana with If They Knew.
Yeah, and it gives you tangible tools. I mean, I'm sure she just mentioned that some people might be mad at the government. I just can't imagine.
No.
I think there's a little bit of anger in the world these days, but I was listening to Wayne Dyer this morning, and he said, if you grab an orange and you squeeze it, what comes out? Juice. What kind of juice? Orange juice every time, right? It's not going to be apple juice. It's never going to be mango juice. It's always going to be orange juice. So whatever is in us is going to come out when we're squeezed. And so I'm sure you're learning that, like, taking yourself through this process continually just adds more and more power, more and more depth of compassion and joy and freedom and all those good feeling things, because you're clearing that space out.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. Now take people, so for anybody listening out there that might have an object of anger, whether it's somebody or something or, objects out in the world these days, take us into some tactical, practical things that they can do. Number one, I'm sure, is to come see you, but what are some other things?
So I skipped that one on purpose when I was going through this, but the first book that changed my life, and I listened to it before I signed up for I listened to her 1 hour Zoom before I signed up for the class. She was interviewing a man who told us about a book called The Four Agreements. And so then when you get into the class, we study the book called Forgive for Good by Fred Luskin. And we went through a process by Michael Brown called The Presence Process. These are all 3 books. And I hate to be this honest, but let me be this honest. You can read those 3 books and know everything I'm going to teach you. But like any good class, I mean, just because I signed up for a class in college, I buy the books. You really need someone to guide you through them.
That, plus tune into Spiritual Smorgasbord with Desiree and Cheyenne.
It is, and we talked about that because then, of course, other things started to happen after that. Of course, that was not my last doctor's visit, by no means. However, we talked about it, and I thought, our ancestors were so smart. They know, whatever ails us, there's a cure for on this planet. We're just not smart enough to know how to use it, but our ancestors were. We need to get back to that. Modern medicine, basically what that is it is what you get from the plant, the healing benefit, just on steroids with side effects.
Yes.
And so a lot of people, modern medicine is considered sexy. It's fast resolving. It's instant gratification. But, and so like plant-based formula, the raw, natural plant-based formula is what is going to work. It's going to be great. It just takes a while. And people want that instant gratification.
Oh, yes.
So a lot of people try something.
It's been marketed to them that way too.
It
They're like,
has.
oh, that's the old way. It's going to take you forever. But if you just take this, you wake up tomorrow and you can have whatever you want.
Exactly.
You can do whatever you want.
But at what cost?
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
my leg is broken, but have some Oxycontin.
Yes.
It's like, dude, your leg is still severely broken. Right. You just can't feel anything.
Yeah. And it's like, so let's go to nature. Let's see.
Yeah.
You know what? There's pain relievers in nature. Marijuana is a great pain reliever.
Yes.
For one. I mean, just
mentally and physically.
Yes. Well, I mean, but there's other remedies out there. And everything that ails us, there's a cure for on this planet.
This whole room smells like peppermint.
We're all getting cured.
We're all getting cured right now. It's a beautiful essential oil I bought from a local, I guess you could say, apothecary shelf, but I'm getting healed right now.
Yes, exactly. It is. And it's all around us. We just need to know how to look for it. And I'm sorry, but that's kind of what we were discussing. And that kind of was what started this whole journey. And what I'm very fortunate that, my spouse and I are together on this. It's not just one of us having a spiritual journey. It's that we're doing this together.
Listen to those shows and so much more on our website, where you can find live streaming, links to the podcast, links to social media, more content, and so much more. It's all online at HooserMedia.com.
When Reason Meets Radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Darn right it is. Welcome back into the program. Covering so much ground today for a Monday, trying to kick off your week, trying to carpe diem all over this place, if you know what I mean. That's what we're all about here. Seize the day, baby. Welcome in. Radio, TV, live streaming, podcasting, trying to cram that 10 pounds of reason into that 5-pound bag, trying to rebrand the millennial generation, one radio listener at a time. By the way, there's a story we're going to talk about tomorrow on the program regarding millennials and the economy. The economists apparently are baffled that the inflation's still high, that interest rates are continuously being higher, that the stock market's going into a recession and doing a major sell-off, and we're all preparing for a recession of 2023, but yet they say that Americans are still spending all this money, which was kind of a lie when they told us in the fourth quarter, because it was actually down by 0.2% from what they originally said, just from what we saw last week. But the vast majority in the generational ways that are spending more than ever and racking up more debt than ever is, of course, again, and I apologize for the millennial generation. So, yes, so we'll get to that tomorrow a little bit and have some fun on that front. Let's shift gears a little bit, though, and get into our What's Trending of the Day.
What's trending today?
Darn right. So as we talked about just a little bit earlier, we have a kind of a lose-lose when it comes to the Biden administration's ties with Ukraine, their ties with Russia, even their ties with China. Then, of course, we had the scare of shooting down a random balloon after it got done with its mission going across the nation. And then we wanted to be proactive by shooting down other UAPs or UFOs in our skies by shooting down like kids' drones and like National Weather Service balloons, because we wanted to be proactive, really show that we were taking initiative to make sure things aren't hovering over our skies and monitoring us or doing whatever the hell that they're doing. So where are we right now in our relationship with the United States and China? Where are we with some of the international issues with the fearless leader of Joe Biden leading that charge? Excited to have on the program. He's a China expert, also industry analyst for the Coalition for a Prosperous American. Excited to have on the program Ken Raposa. Ken, how are you, my friend?
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm fine.
Good. I'm excited to have you on here. So first off, the big question is, how are our relations with China right now? They're funding Russia, who is trying to help take over Ukraine. We're supposedly funding Ukraine with like pension plans and infrastructure bills and going over there and visiting with them, which has got to create some tension. And then, of course, the whole balloon issue. How are we with China right now?
Sure. Well, our relations with China are definitely strained. But here's one thing that your listeners have to remember, right? So it's very easy for the United States to hate on Russia because, of course, the people who are in the deep state, the permanent bureaucracy of the State Department and so on, who've been in and out of there since probably since the mid-'80s, grew up in the Cold War. They grew up with the song by Sting, I Hope the Russians Love Their Children Too, and all in Red Dawn. That's what they grew up in, right? They're in their 60s now, and so battling Russia has always been a James Bond-ish fantasy for them, and so they go after it. China has always been our friend, remember. China was our pal. In the Obama administration, it was the Asia pivot, and some can say that one of the reasons for that Asia pivot Obama used to talk about was to contain China. But there was no effort to contain China because it was always, big business was going to do business in China. They were going to expand in China, and they were going to make everything in the world that you could possibly make in China. There was no turning back. That was the momentum until Trump came to town in 2017 and threw a hand grenade at that entire relationship with China. And so only since then, let's say since 2017, has the United States relationship with China just been torpedoed, and it's sinking. Yeah. And Biden pretty much has done the same thing. I mean, you can say what you want about Biden and his compromises with China because of Hunter, but he has done little to improve relations with China. Actually, the Trump put tariffs on China goods. Those tariffs are still there. Trump put tariffs on things like tariffs on solar panels. Those still exist, even though there was a pause on some not too long ago. But that's another topic. Trump put capital market sanctions on certain companies that Wall Street could not invest in China. Biden extended those capital market sanctions. And Biden also put restrictions on what Intel and Qualcomm and other tech companies could sell to Chinese tech companies. So that relationship has deteriorated. It's deteriorated only since 2018. This is a whole new world for Washington, and it is, how do I balance the China relationship, considered a national imperative, considered a national security threat to the United States?
Yeah.
How do I balance this when, here's the kicker, everything in my house, everything on my phone is made there.
Yeah.
Disney wants to be there. NBA wants to be there. Apple wants to be there. Nike, BlackRock, JP Morgan, Goldman, they all want to be there. How do I balance it? Because I have all those people, all those mega corporations I just named, who lobby for China on China's behalf. China doesn't have to pay them any money to lobby. They'll do it anyway. So it's a very tricky balance, and it's something that's only really new in the American establishment, going after China. It's brand new. Trump started
just the last few years. Yeah, it's very fascinating. You're spot on. I mean, I think the fascination was there really when we had kind of Bush Sr. Come out during the 90s and talk about the New World Order and talk about this globalization and talk about being able to go overseas and do stuff. And China kind of was the hot spot, wasn't it? That was the sexy place to go and create manufacturing because it was so cheap to do so. Then when Trump came along, like you said, I mean, we started doing this America First mindset of, hey, wait a second, we need to be creating jobs here. We don't need to be outsourcing everything we do. We need to be a little bit more independent, and it kind of rocked that relationship a little bit, didn't it?
Absolutely rocked that relationship. And not only that, look at the powers that be hated Trump for that. Financial Times hated Trump. The Eurocrats of the EU hated Trump. They certainly, many of them donated to the Biden campaign against Trump. Many of the wealthy philanthropist organizations and individual philanthropists of Europe donated to the Biden campaign and the Democratic Party. They hate that. The traditional old world globalists, they hated Trump. And then, of course, you had the intelligence community that hated Trump as well, because the intelligence community, one could argue, is, also very pro-globalist, right? So they protect the globalists, they protect the imperialists, and so if you're against it, they will figure out a way to ridicule you, or as Chuck Schumer once said, 6 ways to Sunday to make your life miserable. So, Trump had a target on his back. When you go after, the Western-led order, when you go after globalization in the way that he did, which was basically like I said, the complete torpedoing of the Asia pivot, which was to make Asia be the manufacturing hub of the West, and particularly the United States, and just maintain a service economy here. And to those who were lost out, to those who were the forgotten man, right? Well, you just pay them universal basic income, and that was a strategy. That was in the cards. It was like, look, we're never going to get a factory in upstate New York to make a widget anymore. It's made in Mexico or it's made in China, and that's the way it is. So what are we going to do? Well, let's just convince these people that universal basic income is the way to go, because we can't afford to move them to New York City, or maybe we just move them there. We put them in subsidized housing. It's maybe cheaper to just pay for them to live on whatever it is. Wow. And so this was actually a mindset in Washington, because there was no let's figure out a way to get the United States to, Americans to earn their daily bread, right? To make a living making things instead of just driving for Uber or working two part-time jobs at Macy's and Target.
Right.
That was not a thing. It was this is the way it is. Globalization is unstoppable. It's going to be Asia, and that's the world, and you'll just have to cope.
That's a scary thought, and Donald Trump definitely threw the wrench in that system, but the fact that they had that lined out as their long-term goal, that's a scary thought. So now looking at China, now that we have that disruption, now that we have that kind of that friction between the countries here, is that when they really started having, cyber security concerns with China, where they started coming after us and trying to monitor our info, or were they doing that all the way beforehand and we just started recognizing it now that we're not best buds here?
No, they were doing it all along, right? So, but we monitor it more because we're not best buds. So there is a company everybody's heard of called Cisco Systems of California, San Francisco. That's what Cisco was named after. And they, if I remember correctly, they had either a routing system or maybe it was 5G. I don't know what it was, but some technology that they designed in-house that was totally stolen by a company we all know now called Huawei. And Huawei exists because of that. The Chinese people are not stupid, right? They're certainly. We know this, right? You walk on the Harvard campus or Princeton, right? It's all Asians and most of them are Chinese. So these people can do anything, right? They can certainly create Cisco systems on their own, right? They certainly can. But it's certainly easier if I get the source code from Cisco systems and then use all the might and power of the Chinese party, the government, Chinese Communist Party, to build myself into a Cisco systems times 2 behemoth, something that dominates 5G in all of the Americas. South of Texas is literally Huawei. I mean, you're 5G. You're a telecommunications. You're looking for telecommunications services in Bogota. You're going to Huawei. You're not buying an American system. Probably not buying Ericsson's of Europe. Too expensive. They dominate it now. So, it's a lot easier to grow that kind of company when you have the source code and you can grow from expand from there. So this is how China expanded, one of the ways they expanded, okay, and then using their own smarts on top of that. And Western capital has been flowing into China for years. Wall Street, of course, invests in all the companies there. BlackRock has money in every single Chinese company that's traded on the exchange in Shanghai and Shenzhen, except those that have recently been banned from trading. And, of course, the multinational corporations and even some smaller ones, they're all invested in China. Either they want to be there to sell to the Chinese or they want to be there to make things to sell to us.
Wow. Man, they have their hands in everything. We're talking with Ken Raposa, industry analyst at Coalition for a Prosperous America, which you can find online at prosperousamerica.org. Ken, we got to take a hard break here in a second, so hang tight. When we come back, I want to continue this conversation, talk about some of those issues. Obviously, there's now a concern with TikTok and trying to ban TikTok on how influential China may be having over our young generation. And like you mentioned with the trade I want to talk about the trade deficit on where we're at today compared to, let's say, prior to the Trump administration, because that was his big talking point is, well, we got to get a refix and actually make it beneficial for us for our trade deficit that we have with China. So there's a lot of direction we need to go here and our look at the future with our relationship with the country. Is it going to get more tense or can we calm things down just a little bit moving forward? All that and more coming up for a Monday here on The Voice of Reason. Stay right here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Andy Hooser here, reminding you not only can you listen to The Voice of Reason on your favorite radio station, but also check out the video of the program on TV and online. We're excited to be working with our partners over at OpsLens to bring The Voice of Reason live every day on their website at opslens.com, on the OpsLens app that you can download on any of your smartphones, or on any of the OpsLens social media. It's a great network that broadcasts multiple shows promoting truth, reason, and common sense, reaching thousands of viewers every day, all day long. Plus, while you're there, you can always watch some of the best highlights of the show during the weekends or read our latest opinion columns on topical issues of the day. Also, if you want to interact with me during the program, just leave a comment on their social media or the OpsLens app stream. You can always join the live chat rooms, or if it's easier, just email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Again, that's HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. This is your show, and we want to hear from you. Why? Because it's time for you to be your own voice of reason in your own community. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. You want some more reason throughout the day? Well, now it's easier than ever to find. Here's what you do. Check out the website at HooserReason.com. There you can find past shows, links to all of our social media, special features, our monthly blogs, and a heck of a lot more. Plus, make sure to check in frequently as we're constantly working to add more goodies that you'll really enjoy. Also, you can always subscribe and follow our social media sites for bonus content, articles that we use on the show, or maybe some additional rants. Yeah, it's all that and so much more. Check it all out at HooserReason.com. Looking for more reason? Well, now you can get even more content from The Voice of Reason through our Patreon site. It's your exclusive membership for being the ultimate Hoosier-holic. On our Patreon, you'll get additional interviews and content that we don't get to air on the radio, behind-the-scenes action from the Hooser Media Network, plus one-on-one video streams where you can catch up with me, guests of the show, and other great Voice of Reason supporters. Plus, you can also support the show by checking out our gear and swag. Find the link on our website at HooserReason.com. Again, that's HooserReason.com. Become the ultimate Hoosier-holic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. As we continue to grow as a radio and TV program, we're continuously working behind the scenes to try and bring more common sense and reason to more patriotic Americans all over the country. That's why we're super excited to be working with the OpsLens team to bring you the Voice of Reason every single day. Opslands is a national online network bringing you incredible content all day from hosts all over the country. And each host brings their own unique experience and expertise to the current events, reaching hundreds of thousands of patriotic Americans daily. Make sure to check out their website at opslands.com. Make sure to download the Opslands website and follow them on all of the social media sites that you like, so you can watch all of their live streaming content, including ours right here with The Voice of Reason. Plus, if you want more of The Voice of Reason, check out our website online at HooserReason.com. There you can listen to the live audio feed of the show every single day. You can read our monthly blog. You can check out our satire infomercials. You can see pictures of what we're doing, upcoming schedule of events, and a heck of a lot more. On the website, you can find our list of radio and TV affiliates in your area. Find our social media links, and while you're there, sign up for our free newsletter. Over the last 2 years, your Voice of Reason newsletter has grown exponentially. It's completely free, and in it we give you your monthly motivation, upcoming civic holidays for the month, a recap from the show from last month, upcoming guests on the program, along with the latest news from our Hooser Media Network. It's pretty simple. All you got to do is go to the website at HooserReason.com and become the next Hooserholic. Finally, follow us on all of our social media sites. With the iron grip control on content from the radical left, unless you follow us, you're not going to be able to see us. It's been an ongoing battle with shadow banning on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where even our own fans are having a hard time finding our content. But the battle isn't over. We'll continue to bring you the best content we can on as many platforms as possible. You can follow us with the handle at Hooser Reason. No matter what social media site you like to use, you can find us there. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch.tv, Instagram, TikTok, ourfreedombook.com, Parler, and of course our website at HooserReason.com. Don't miss it while we give you a heads up on some of the events that I may be attending or speaking at, updates of behind-the-scene projects, or just something sarcastic to try and rile up the left. The battle for freedom is real, and we want to be part of that battle, as we want you to be your own voice of reason in your own community. Conservative principles happen at the grassroots level, and that's what we're here to help with. And together, you and I can fight back against this virus that's spreading across the nation that is socialist policy, trying to destroy this country. We can bring us back to some constitutional values, some individual sovereignty, and the right for you to be able to make your own choices when you deem necessary for you, your family, and your community. In a world of fake news and information overload, it's time to bring back some reason, common sense, guidance, and a little bit of wisdom. And that's what we're here to do. This is The Voice of Reason.
Fighting for freedom every day. The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
All right, it is. Welcome back into the program. Last few minutes of the show. Fastest hour of radio on, radio. Multiple radio stations all over the place. Thanks for hanging out. As always, love you to death. Appreciate it. Coming up on the program tomorrow, we have Congressman Bob Latta from the great state of Ohio. We're going to get an update on the train derailment going on and the EPA's investigation. Now that Trump went down there, and then they're like, oh, yeah, it's actually a big deal. We're going to start cleaning up some of the waste down there. After they're like, oh, we burned it off the water. You're fine. You can start consuming again. We'll get to that a little bit later on tomorrow on the program. Today, though, we're hanging out with Ken Raposa. He's an industry analyst at Coalition for a Prosperous America, which you can find online at prosperousamerica.com, talking about the relationship with China, how it's evolved or maybe devolved over the last few years. Ken, real quickly, as we got just a few minutes left here, let's talk about the trade deficit. That was the big talking point under the Trump administration, was how badly the trade deficit was with China and how we need to correct that by, like you said, putting the tariffs on China. And where are we today? And did that rectify the situation, or are we still in a quote-unquote trade deficit with them?
Oh, wow. Yes, we are in a big trade deficit with China. We certainly import from them more than they import from us. So in a few minutes we have left, the deficit is a little lower than it was when tariffs began in 2018. That was about $418 billion in trade gap between the two countries. Now it's about, let's say, I'm going to guess, $360 billion. So it's less, but the trend is rising. And we could also say it might be less because of what happened during COVID. And, of course, some of China's supply chains moved to Southeast Asia and shipped through there. So our trade deficit with Vietnam, which buys nothing from the United States, a poor country, is going through the roof. It's big. Our trade deficit with Vietnam is bigger than it is, let's say, than with Germany, for example. Because Vietnam doesn't buy anything from us, because a lot of those Chinese companies just shipped through Vietnam instead. So if you were to add Vietnam to the China deficit would be almost the same. And why is that? Well, we don't live in a dictatorship where Trump or Biden can tell Apple where to make their iPhones and their iPods from, right? So until Apple says, yeah, we're not going to make 100% of our iPhones in China at Foxconn factories in mainland China, we're going to move them to India, or we're going to move some of them to Mexico, or better yet, move some to Indiana. Then that number's never going to change. It's just going to keep rising. So you can't blame. The president can only do so much. We live in a free market, and we want to live in a free market. Now we want to live in a free society, right, where the private sector can do what they want. But when you say, okay, it's going to cost you 25% more to do what you want, you can see right there that the China margin is so great that you could say to a company like Apple, well, it's going to cost you 25% more to import your goods. They said, we don't care. You could charge 70% more. The price is still nothing. If you ever go to like these retail stores, let's say like Joann's Fabric and Crafts or any store, right? And you'll see like 70% off or whatever it is. Some retail item that's all from China, right? Maybe it's clothes or fabric, right? 70% off. I mean, think about either they're losing money on it, or even if they're making a little bit, a 5% margin on these things, you can imagine how high these things are marked up, right?
Yeah.
So, when you're putting a 25% tariff on a China good, which all these companies cried about, you would think that they would say, oh my gosh, we can never import from China again. It's just too expensive. They never stopped because their margin on China is so huge, and because China is so important to them. Just moving their factories, moving their contractors would be very complicated. They have long-term relationships with these people. But also the profit is still good. So they have not shifted enough out of China, including to Southeast Asia, and certainly not to wherever you are. Are you in Kansas?
I'm in Kansas. Yeah, I'm based out of Wichita,
so
Kansas.
Have you seen any new factories going up in Kansas to make new era baseball hats or anything like that? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you have.
Well, we're starting not that kind of stuff, but we are, interesting enough, we're starting to build our own computer chips here. There's been 3 or 4 different manufacturing plants across Kansas that actually started that. So that was going to be my next question: is some of that industry that is beginning to come back here without the reliability of especially computer chips out there is fascinating to see how things are changing that way.
Right, and that's where the government can come in, right? So we could say what we want about Biden, but that's the Chips and Science Act, which Biden signed into law. He didn't make that law. He didn't make it. He didn't write it. That was Congress that did that, but he signed it into law. So the CHIPS law is what provides all these incentives for companies like the chip makers you're saying that are moving to Kansas, which certainly isn't as expensive to moving to New York City or San Francisco.
Exactly.
And they can make that there. It's affordable. So luckily that's an example of how legislation and how the government can work to help build American industry up.
Oh, how the times are changing. It's going to be fascinating to see how this relationship evolves with China and how we look at it moving forward in the future. Check them out online, prosperousamerica.org. It's Ken Raposa. Ken, great to have you on the program, my friend. Great info. Let's do it again soon.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Hey, love it very much. Great information. We'll break that down again tomorrow. Until then, we're back at it again on a Tuesday. Make sure to be your own voice of reason. It's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is The Voice of Reason. I'm Andy Hooser. We'll see you on the radio. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. When I get off the air every day, the battle for me against limited government, censorship, and even unfactual content is far from over. That's why now I'm so happy to say that the Hooser Media Network is giving you more opportunity to catch the voice of reason along with other great shows and podcasts. It's been a long time in the works, and now you can finally enjoy more great content, services, and topical shows. We're the safe space for alternative talk, information, and ideas that the mainstream media absolutely hates. From holistic and alternative medicine, discussions on religion and spirituality, pure entertainment shows, and of course yours truly with the voice of reason. Plus, we offer numerous media services, including helping you set up your own podcast. Become your own voice of reason and bring your expertise to any fun issue or topic. For information on all of our shows, links to podcasts, each show website or social media link, or to find out about everything we do to challenge the mainstream establishment, visit our website at HooserMedia.com. Again, that's HooserMedia.com, the future of media.
Dan Bongino.
Because if there's one thing I hate, it's propaganda. And if there's one thing I hate even more than propaganda, it's Bush League propaganda directed at idiots. Want to go to a war zone? Fine. Trump's done it. Bush has done it. Obama did it. Biden does it. I applaud any president who wants to take it on the chin, and it is dangerous over there. But we don't need the propaganda.
Live middays 11 till 2, right here on KQAM.
The Dan Bongino Show.
Wichita State softball is back, and season tickets are available now. Reigning AAC Player of the Year Addison Barnard and All-American Sydney McKinney look to take Shocker softball to new heights after coming off their NCAA regional appearance last season. The Shockers will welcome national powerhouse Oklahoma